There are long nights when we lie in bed, eyes closed, and suddenly realize that all the knowledge we have ever studied cannot save us from loneliness, cannot free us from the anxiety tightening in our chest. At that moment, we understand. External truth is never enough. People often say, knowledge is power. But knowledge does not become power if it only rests silently on the page or echoes in our mind as hollow words. It only truly becomes power when we live it, when every word and every idea seeps into our blood, into our breath, and becomes a part of who we are. There is an example I love. Imagine you are thirsty. You stand before a crystal clear stream. Someone beside you says, "This water is cool, sweet, drink it, and your thirst will be soothed." Another explains the chemical structure of water, H2O molecules, and its necessity for the body. You nod, you remember, you can even repeat it to others, but you are still thirsty because you have not drunk. That is exactly how most of us treat truth. We listen, we learn, we repeat, we teach, we argue, but we forget to live it. We forget to let it become an experience, an action, a moment in reality. And so, the heart remains thirsty. Thirsty for a living truth, not a dry concept. There was once a man who spent his life collecting scriptures. He could recite any passage from the Buddhist texts, speak for hours about impermanence, non-self, compassion. People called him a living treasury of knowledge. But when death took his only son, he collapsed. He cried, he despaired, he stumbled like someone who knew nothing of impermanence. In that moment he realized everything he had learned was only words. It had never entered his life. It had never touched his heart, just like many of us. We can say, let go, don't cling. But when we ourselves are insulted, when we lose something, we still cling tightly to the pain. We still cry out, resent, torment ourselves. We can teach others about unconditional love. But when we love, we still calculate, still demand, still fear losing. This does not mean we are hypocrites. It only means we have not yet lived the truth we claim to know. And that is why the author of Journey to the East said, instead of seeking a truth, seek the absolute within yourself. For truth is to be lived, not to be taught. Someone once asked me, what is the absolute within oneself? I believe it is when we live truth naturally, without effort, without needing to prove anything. Like a gentle person who never says, I am kind. Just being near them, we already feel peace. The absolute within is when goodness becomes our nature, our breath, our very flesh and blood. We do not need to speak. Others can sense it. So sometimes, let us ask ourselves, all that we learn, all that we read, all that we believe in, have we truly lived it? Or Or are they still only words we repeat to console ourselves, to prove to others that we understand? We are still thirsty for a living truth, and only by living truth ourselves can we quench that thirst. Truth out there and the emptiness within us. There are moments when we sit in a lecture hall hearing lofty teachings, impermanence, letting go, enlightenment. We nod. We feel as if we have grasped something immense. But only a few days later, in daily life, when conflicts arise in the family, pressures at work, heartbreak in love, everything we heard seems to vanish like smoke. We are still angry. We are still fearful. We are still anxious, still resentful. This shows a harsh reality. Knowledge does not equal transformation. You may know everything and still change nothing. A monk once said, "One may drink the entire ocean in words and still be thirsty if not a single sip is truly drunk." We are obsessed with collecting truths. We read self-help books, take notes of inspiring quotes, share them online, believing we have understood, we are enlightened. But in the end, at night, the heart remains lonely, heavy, bleeding from invisible wounds. So what good is that knowledge? A person may speak endlessly about compassion, yet remain indifferent to the suffering of their own family. Another may preach for hours about letting go, but the moment someone offends them, they flare up, defensive and harsh. Another may teach about unconditional love, yet when they love, they control, possess, grow jealous, fearful. Why such contradiction? Because they know, but they do not live. It is like learning to swim. You may read hundreds of pages about breathing techniques, strokes, kicks. You may memorize every detail, but only when you step into the water, sink a few times, struggle and flail, do you truly learn to swim. Truth is the same. It does not lie in books, but in blood, in breath, in sweat and tears as you live. That is why some people with little schooling, who know nothing of philosophy or religion, live kindly, generously, compassionately. They do not teach, they do not speak, they do not preach, but their presence brings peace to others. Meanwhile, some talk endlessly, but being near them, we only feel heaviness, tension, pressure. That emptiness is a warning. We are hoarding truths like ornaments without truly living them. We must be honest with ourselves. Have we truly forgiven someone? Have we truly lived a single day without resentment? Have we dared to face the deepest fear in our own heart? If not, let us not claim we understand truth, for truth is not in what we read, hear, or repeat. Truth only reveals itself when it becomes our breath, our flesh and blood, our lived reality, and then we will understand. External truth is only the finger pointing at the moon. If we keep staring at the finger, we will never see the moonlight. What is truth, if not the way we breathe, the way we eat, the way we love, the way we face suffering. The Buddha taught impermanence. It sounds simple, but we only truly understand impermanence when a loved one dies, when youth fades, when we see a flower bloom in the morning and wilt by evening, and instead of lamenting, we smile, knowing that is the law. When we can smile through tears, then we are living impermanence. Nietzsche spoke of amor fati, the love of fate. It sounds profound, but it only has meaning when we embrace both joy and pain in life. When we fail, are betrayed, lose everything, and still can say, I accept, I love even this, for it too is part of my life. In that moment, we are living truth. Kierkegaard called anxiety the sickness of the spirit, and the cure is not control, but the courage to let go of fear of the unknown. When we dare to step into the darkness of the future, uncertain, unguaranteed, but with an open heart, then we are living truth. In daily life, truth is present in the smallest things. When we choose to listen to our loved ones instead of imposing, when we choose forgiveness over anger, when we drop a prejudice to understand another, when we smile on an ordinary day knowing that simply being alive, breathing is already a miracle, that is living truth. Truth is not a phrase to argue about online. It is to be walked, to be drunk, to be breathed, to be loved, to be wept, to be let go. Truth is to be lived. We keep running outward to seek. We long for someone to hand us an answer, a formula, a map. But the farther we go, the more exhausted we feel, because truth is not out there. It is within. The absolute within is when we stop, sit still, and listen. In silence, we hear our heartbeat. In silence, we see our fear, our pain, our dreams, our unhealed wounds. And in silence, we realize we do not need another new truth. We only need to live fully with what already is. There was once an old man who lived nearly a century. When asked the secret of happiness, he simply smiled. Happiness, it is in the way I drink this cup of tea, in the way I watch the sunset each evening. He did not teach. He lived. And his very presence was the greatest teaching. We are so used to wanting to teach others. When we see someone suffering, we rush to give advice. But remember, truth is not to be taught. It only touches another when they see us living it. A mother does not need to say, I love you. Love is already in her eyes, in every gesture of care. A gentle person does not need to preach gentleness. It radiates from them like a natural fragrance. That is the absolute within. My friend, let us stop chasing after fancy words. Let us stop hoarding more truths. Let us begin by living the simplest things. Take one deep breath. Look at your loved one with full presence. Forgive an old mistake. Release a resentment. Smile at the present moment. Truth is not to be taught, to be flaunted, to be debated. Truth is only to be lived. And when you live it, you do not need to say a word. Your very presence becomes the answer.